High school graduation was supposed to be one of the proudest moments of my life. I worked hard, stayed up nights, finishing assignments, and even managed to win a small academic award. But as my classmates celebrated with flowers and family photos, my parents stood off to the side, arms crossed, faces cold. When I ran up to them, diploma in hand, my mom sighed dramatically. "You really think that piece of paper changes anything? You still look like a mess," she said loud enough for people nearby to hear. My dad chuckled, adding, "Yeah, we're just here so people don't think we abandoned you already." I felt my throat tighten, my hands trembling around the rolled diploma. I laughed nervously, trying to pretend it didn't sting, but it did. Every word cut deeper than the last. When my mom called my sister over for a photo, she said, "Smile, honey, you're the pretty one. You actually have a future." That night, we went home, and they didn't even mention dinner or congratulations. Instead, they began arguing about how much I cost them and how my ugly, boring personality embarrassed them in front of relatives. I remember standing in the hallway, clutching my award, and realizing I wasn't loved, not even tolerated. I was a burden, they regretted. 2 days later, my dad left an envelope on my bed. Inside was a single note. "It's time for you to make it on your own. Don't call us." That was it. No money, no support, just exile. So I packed a single suitcase, took the last bus out of town, and promised myself something. I would build a life so beautiful, so powerful, that one day they'd have to look me in the eyes and realize exactly who they threw away. I didn't know how or when it would happen, but I knew I would never be that helpless, heartbroken girl again. If this story pulled you in, hit subscribe for more emotional true life tales of family, revenge, and redemption. Each story reminds us, sometimes walking away is the start of everything you deserve. The first year on my own was brutal. I moved into a cramped studio apartment above a noisy diner, the kind that smelled of grease and burnt toast. I worked double shifts at a coffee shop, studying late at night on an old laptop I'd bought secondhand. Every time exhaustion hit me, I thought of my mother's sneer, my father's laughter, and it pushed me harder. I didn't want revenge, not yet. I just wanted peace. But peace doesn't come easy when you're alone at 18 with no money, no family, and a heart full of bruises. I learned to stretch $1 until it screamed. Instant noodles became dinner, library books became escape, and silence became my friend. Over time, things started to shift. I got into a community college on scholarship, majoring in design. I was good with details, colors, balance, texture, maybe because I had spent my whole life trying to find beauty in chaos. My professors noticed my focus. One of them, a kind man named Mr. Lane, told me I had an eye for branding. He said, "You see things other people miss. That's your gift." Those words changed me more than my parents ever could. I built a small freelance portfolio, designing logos for local shops and small startups. My clients loved my work. For the first time, I felt seen. Not as the ugly one, not as the failure, but as someone with value. Years passed. I graduated with honors, rented a better apartment, and opened my own design studio. At first, it was just me and an old desktop computer that took 5 minutes to start. But I treated every client like they were my first. Slowly, through word of mouth and persistence, I grew. By the time I was 29, I had a team of 7 employees, clients across 3 countries, and my designs featured in national campaigns. My company wasn't huge, but it was stable, and mine. Every time I saw my name on a contract or my work displayed in a magazine, I smiled quietly to myself. Then one day, while scrolling through Facebook, I saw a post from my sister. It was a photo of my parents and her at a fancy restaurant. The caption read, "Celebrating family, the ones who truly matter." I felt that old sting in my chest again, but it didn't last long. I closed the app and went back to work. A few weeks later, my assistant buzzed me. "There's a woman on line 1. She says she's your mother." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands froze over the keyboard. It had been 11 years since I'd heard her voice. I answered, "Hello?" Her tone was lighter than I remembered, almost fake sweet. "Hi, honey. It's your mom. We saw your company online. It looks like you've done well for yourself." I didn't reply. She hesitated, then continued, "Your father's not been doing great. The business went under. Your sister's wedding got postponed. Things have been hard. We were hoping we could come visit, maybe stay a few weeks until we figure things out." That last part hit like a slap. Stay a few weeks after 11 years of silence. No apology, no regret, just entitlement. I took a slow breath, glancing around my office. The framed art, the photos of my team, the company logo I had built from scratch. Everything here came from my pain, my hunger, my will to survive.
Finally, I said softly, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. Her tone cracked. We're your family. I almost laughed. No, I said, voice steady. Family doesn't call you a disgrace. Family doesn't tell you you're ugly or worthless, and then show up when they need help. There was silence on the other end. I could almost picture her face. Shocked, indignant, not used to hearing me speak with strength. Then I added, you disowned me once. I just decided to make it official. And I hung up. I sat there for a long moment afterward, staring out the window at the city skyline. The younger version of me, the scared girl clutching her diploma, would have cried. But not me. Not anymore. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. A month after that call, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text, a real letter. It was from my father. His handwriting was shaky, uneven. He wrote that he'd lost the business, the house, and most of his savings. My sister had stopped speaking to them after realizing how toxic things had become. He ended the letter with, you were never the ugly one. He said he'd been wrong about me, about everything. You were just the one strong enough to live without us.
For a long time, I didn't know how to feel. The apology was too late, but it was still something. I didn't respond, but I kept the letter in my desk drawer. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was closure. A year later, my company sponsored an event at my old high school, a career day for students who wanted to pursue design. As I stood on stage sharing my story, I noticed a familiar face in the back row, my old teacher, Mr. Lane, smiling proudly. I realized then that the family I'd built, my team, my friends, the people who saw me for who I was, mattered far more than the one I'd lost. Sometimes you don't get the love you deserve from where you expect it, but that doesn't mean you stop deserving it. It just means you go out there and create your own. And when you do, it's stronger, quieter, and infinitely more real.